being able to be expressive when speaking differs from person to person. There's two possible directions for practicing that. One of them would be acting, which I guess normally means faking something, but at least my understanding for how good actors act is they try to actually genuinely create the feeling. The other direction would be the idea that the expressiveness is already there, but there's something getting in the way. Some part of the mind that's like a filter, or maybe like a panel of judges or committee that's analyzing what's about to be said. And by the time the words make it to your mouth, they're completely lifeless. All of the life has been sucked out of them. It's strange how on one hand it seems like it would be good if the words could just come out and there'd be this fluency and expressiveness. But then on the other hand, there's the idea of how it's good to think before you speak. This kind of reminds me of this idea of scripts. We all have this big list of scripts in our head of what to say in different situations, how to say it. Like if somebody's eating chips and they say, "Do you want a chip?" You say, no, I'm good. Maybe if you had a recording of every single time you said that and you listened to them, you'd find that not only did you say the exact same wording every time, but you said it with the same expression in your voice. It's like in order to save energy or something, the brain is just calling upon this script instead of really deciding to be present in that moment. And I'm trying to think of how that would be different though in a really mundane situation like being offered some chips. If you were present in that moment, maybe a different example would be better. But either way, there'd still be the question of how do you make yourself be present and forgo all of the scripts, forgo the committee that sucks the life out of everything you say. I could see some kind of like mindfulness meditation helping. I guess that's kind of what meditation is all about, or that kind of meditation. That's another thing I notice myself do. When I speak, sometimes there'll be kind of a rapid, like a correction, where there's a little bit of, I don't know what it would be. It's something that's not calm and laid back. I guess that would be a separate category. There's being expressive, and I guess that other category would be, I don't know, preventing fear or insecurity or anxiety from influencing the way you speak. I guess if you fully mastered that second category, so fear didn't influence how you spoke, you'd still potentially end up without any expression, right? Unless the committee is all driven by fear. Yeah, I'm trying to think if I had zero fear, would I suddenly become expressive? I am trying to be expressive as I record this video. Actually, yeah, right there just now. The committee considered, is this correct or incorrect? Tiny, tiny amount of fear. I guess maybe calling it fear would be misleading, because usually people, when they hear fear, what they think of is like intense fear, when in reality, if there's a spectrum of fear, maximum fear, minimum fear, all throughout your day, there's this constant fluctuation, hopefully near the bottom of the spectrum. But it's not just sitting at zero until you get, attacked by a Bigfoot. I guess it's like the idea of fight or flight. There's fight or flight versus rest, digest. Another word for them is the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic. And so those are constantly fluctuating. I imagine there's some version of them having overlaps where they're not literally the same spectrum with zero in the middle, like -1, +1, but there's sort of like two independent spectrums. And on average, when one goes up, there's like a correlation of the other one going down. Near the bottom of the spectrum, around zero, they're both constantly fluctuating. I watched this video of someone on a bicycle, and they had the camera strapped to their head. They were in a race. It was at the top of this snow-capped mountain. They raced down on their bikes, try to avoid the giant piles of other fallen cyclists as they slide by through the snow. And there's a part where the cyclist kind of went over a hill, got some air. And when they did that, they made the woohoo sound, woohoo. Woo! 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 And I got the sense that when they went over the jump, they just felt it, and the sound just naturally, effortlessly came out. They didn't think about it. They weren't coming up to the jump, preparing for that, being like, I need to make sure my voice doesn't crack because I want to make the woohoo sound on this jump. My sense, at least, is that it just kind of happened without them thinking about it. For the longest time, I didn't even know how to make that sound. And I looked up YouTube tutorials, how do you make the woohoo sound? But there weren't any. And I would try, and I think it would sound like this when I would try. Woohoo! Woohoo! So I couldn't do it. And whenever I go over a jump, it's not even, it's not like I my body tries to make that sound and fails, it's that it's not even in the repertoire in the first place. I guess it would be a script. The racer on the bike, I guess, they have that script. I've been practicing singing for a while now. And one day I was at home and nobody else was there. So I was practicing singing without any reservations, allowing myself to just make any sound, no matter how embarrassing. I was singing some higher notes and I was, experimenting with what sounds are possible. And then just out of nowhere, I was making the woohoo sound. And I was really surprised. And it was the first time I'd ever made that sound. And I wasn't even trying to make it. But even now, though, I can't just make the sound at will. But I can only reliably make it if I warm up for a while. So I wonder if there's any correlation there with someone's tendency to be able to just naturally speak in an expressive way. Are those people more likely to just be able to naturally make the woohoo sound? Or to make it at all? Versus people that don't naturally speak with expressiveness? Is there like a higher percentage of those people that are completely unable to make the woohoo sound?